thought it was a hypo, and I'm like, welcome to Comics League. I'm Jared. I'm here with Ryan Dube. What's up, dude?
How you doing? How you doing?
Good. It's been
Good
a
to
while.
be here. Thanks for the invite, man.
Hell yeah, anytime, man. But yeah, so let's get started. So for first question, I always ask people is what got you into comics?
The art. Now, I've always, when I grew up in the sort of Christopher Reeve era of film. So that played a huge part of my upbringing, and I really the film resonated with me. And then growing up, a little bit more, you had the Michael Keaton stuff, and then I always watched the Adam West and Burt Ward Batman reruns and things like that on Nickelodeon, and then of course like Super Friends cartoons and then the Batman the animated series was playing. So I mean, a lot of just media everywhere for me was more so DC than Marvel. But I do like Marvel, but I just thought that DC characters were a little bit more iconic and just larger than life and stuff like that. So they really that really had me going, kind of just really made me a happy kid. I had the toys and all that stuff, so I was just like it just played a big part of who I became or who I am now growing up, because I just those are the heroes that I looked up to. So
sweet. Yeah, it's like with me, it was mostly the Justice League cartoon, because at the time when it was coming out, I was more of the Batman, Superman, but then I was like, who the hell does that do with the green ring? It's like that was like my exposure to the fact that there were other characters beyond Batman and Superman. Who's that Wonder Woman character? She looks cool. But and then it became obviously Zach's movies that like really like expanded into, these are actual like gods amongst men and stuff. Because that's always been like why I align more with DC, because it's like I like that very mythological bend that DC has more so than Marvel.
Well, Marvel, a lot of their heroes are very relatable. As far as like they just they're humans, they have problems, it's just and they're sort of trying to balance their lives with the powers and the things that are going on around them. Whereas like you're saying, other than Batman, all of the DC characters are just sort of larger than life, and their problems are greater than we can comprehend and things like that. And that was always intriguing to me. And Aquaman, just he was always in Atlantis, but there's these great oceans that's like there's so many things that remain still unexplored, and they still have new creatures and species and things like that they still find under the ocean. And so that's that's very much still something you can still explore. And they have ruins that are under the sea, and just kind of lends to that sort of mythos. So I definitely resonate with a lot of that as well, and they really pull from like history and things like that. So with Marvel, it's a lot of it's silly powers and silly things, but like grounded in a real gritty environment or society. So
that makes sense.
It's you pick your poison basically with that. So
yeah, it's fine. And I feel like that's kind of what is one of my problems with the recent Superman movie, is that I felt like they tried to Marvelize Superman a little too. I get that they wanted to go in a more like positive, more bright and happy bend, but there's a way to do that without ignoring the fact that he's supposed to be like a god, like in the Reeves movies or like in the Man of Steel movie.
Yeah. So I mean, the newest incarnation of Superman, I liked the actor that played Clark, and I thought his Clark was pretty good. I liked his suit. The suit was fine. There were parts of it that didn't bend well or bend right, or just a lot of things that they did creatively that it worked, right. I didn't mind the trunks. No trunks. It doesn't matter to me. It's Superman. I'm more interested in the character more so than what he looks like. But the problem that I had with the movie was that it was hard for me to decipher. Well, what's the story here? This to me just felt like this is the day in the life of Superman. That's it. And there was no arc. There was no from what did he learn from the start to finish. The only thing he really learned was that his parents were douches. That sent him to Earth, and that his wild parents of the farm are actually really sweet people, and you should have a panoramic view of them at the end, and just kind of like that's I don't know. That was sort of it. I did like the robots. I thought they were pretty
Robots were
cool. And I mean, I didn't really like the villain. The Ultraman didn't work for me because it was just not. It just wasn't it. And then the engineer, like, I don't know, she just didn't make any sense to me either. Like when she transformed from, like made her head, or her hands, her feet, and her feet, her hands, and switched. I was like, how does that work? And
Yeah.
where was she underneath the suit? And why couldn't you just stand up? It was just like, it was like special effects for special effects, and it wasn't. There was no purpose to it. There's no reason behind it. And then Lex just, he didn't seem very, like, when I see Lex, I want to see somebody calculated. I want to see somebody that kind of has his shit together, and like really, just sort of is playing chess, and really strategic, and how, he kind of moves around the board. But with this one, he was just very emotional, and the same thing with Superman. He got, super emotional for no reason. And it was just like, some people were like, yeah, that just showed his humanity, and I was like, yeah, but I mean, if you look at like you mentioned before, like Chris Reeve or even Henry Cavill, or hell, even Brandon Routh, they were always calm, cool, collected. They didn't really, nothing really, really bothered them, and there was nothing that happened in the movie that would, or that should have, really made or given David a Cornsweat's character, that sort of, impulse to act on. So I was just like, nah, I don't know. This is kind of weird.
Well,
But
and then you add on to the fact that most of the movie is him getting beat on the entire movie. It's like, I get that they want to make Superman a little more vulnerable, but it's like they literally tell you in the beginning of the movie he's the most powerful metahuman, and I go, where is that?
Yeah, I was more interested in watching the movie. I was more interested in Mr. Terrific than I was Superman.
Yeah,
so I thought he was the best.
Like that was intentional. Character. After all, who was directing the movie?
Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, even like Guy Gardner, he was okay, but I didn't really care. Hawk Girl really didn't do much but scream. And there was a squirrel in there somewhere. Oh, and then the Metamorpho, that whole sequence with him holding the baby above the transformer blocks was just kind of weird. And that's what that river of blocks or whatever reminded me of, was like, how like Galvatron would turn into a truck to robot form. I was like, why does it look like that? I thought that was lazy in the Transformers movie. I thought it was lazy here in the Superman movie. So I don't know. It was hella vibrant, very saturated. And that was intentional because, the whole, Zack Snyder muted colors motif versus, I
hate to say it,
saturated.
It kind of reminded me of Justice League a little bit.
Oh, very much so. I mean, that was sort of the panic when they set Zack aside and said, okay, now we're gonna make Batman blue-ish, and we're going to kind of liven up the colors and everything, and make Superman's chrome underneath the suit really pop and look silly. So it didn't work. It's like, you develop a vehicle, an engine, and it's supposed to run a certain way, but then they put unleaded gasoline in, and it just didn't run well. So it didn't play well. So, it showed, the numbers showed at the theater, and the numbers also show, as far as like how many people like the theatrical release of Justice League versus how many people don't. So.
And we also see that Justice League grossed more than Superman. That kind of tells you something. That's the real. Yeah. That's kind of an ironic little bit there. The other thing that I wasn't a big fan of, I don't like the drunk party girl Supergirl, because it's like, that's not Kara even in the comics now. It's just based because he's basing that version off of the very extremely flawed Tom King book. So it's like, might as well just go with that. Sure.
I mean, it's something that is culturally acceptable now, and people like that sort of, party girl kind of thing. I prefer, stronger, female leads, kind of like what they did with Gal in the first Wonder Woman, and even the Supergirl that they had back in Christopher Reeve's day. I forget her name, but I mean, even her,
Helen Slater.
These characters, I'm sorry, what was it?
I think her name was Helen Slater.
Helen,
Slater.
Helen something. Yeah, I think it could be Slater, but Helen sounds right.
Yeah.
But I mean, Supergirl is supposed to be somebody, and all these female characters are supposed to be characters that the little girls are supposed to look up to. And since this is a Supergirl movie, a lot of little girls are going to want to see it, and so all they're going to see is this, like you said, drunken, adolescent or 20-some-year-old girl, just sort of like, throwing caution to the wind, acting a girl boss, wearing a trench coat, jumping around, being their version of Supergirl, and there's nothing, there's nothing really to look up to, for that, unless she actually has an arc and she learns something and says, hey, you know what, I'm not going to do that anymore. I'll be respectable or whatever. So
we'll see, but it's like I don't anticipate that. It's just like it's just because I wasn't because here's the thing. It's like with Kara, they misinterpret the fact that she is angry and stuff. I mean, even in the comics, they gave her like a Red Lantern ring, which was dope, by the way. But it's like when it's like they misinterpret that of she drinks to like avoid trauma and stuff. I'm like, that was never a thing. Except
they're like, she goes away from the yellow sun so that the alcohol can affect her on a molecular level, so and have her be drunk or whatnot. And so I do not have high hopes for the film.
Me neither.
I'm sure it will have some fun stuff in it, but overall I think it's going to land just the same as Superman. I'm not looking forward to the Man of Tomorrow either, because for me, that wasn't even on their slate.
Yeah,
that wasn't something that they planned out. It was just sort of, they're doing this on a whim, just about, and anything done. See, that's why I'm such a staunch, supporter of like older films, because they took their time with the films. They perfected the script, they perfected their craft, and they didn't release anything, or they didn't move forward unless they had, everything, just so, because there wasn't the hype engine. It wasn't quantity over quality. It was, when you got a sequel, it was like, oh, it's because it deserved the sequel, right? And 9 times out of 10, sequels didn't do as well as the original. There are some that kind of surpassed, for me at least, like Godfather 2 and Empire Strikes Back and Superman 2 even. But they're, and Back to the Future 2 and 3, if you want to count those. But there aren't that many that like surpass the original version of the film that actually made the money and brought the audiences in. So but with today, it's just like, greenlight as much as you can, get it out there. We need people streaming, we need people to watch it, we need, and there's really there's no reason for anybody to go to a theater anymore, because the experience is kind of not there. The last time I saw something that I was like, oh man, I definitely needed to see this in the theater, I think was Aquaman, because of it was an IMAX experience. And it was just like, you had, huge visuals, and like Avatar. I haven't seen the latest Avatar.
Me too.
I've heard it's good, but I haven't seen it because I just don't, there's nothing in me that, like, I've seen the first 2. I like the first 2, but I don't have enough of a desire to go, even not even IMAX, just to the theater and watch this third movie. I'll watch it at home.
Yeah. It's like it takes a lot to make me, because it has to be a franchise that like I'm very attached to. Avatar, it's like if I get the time, I get the time, but if I can't, no big deal. It'll be on Disney Plus. It's not
exactly. So we've met the blue people, we've met the green people. Now we're meeting the white or red people, and then I guess the next film is going to have either yellow or charcoal or whatever,
the entire RGB of spectrum.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be basically Green Lanterns of the Avatar universe. So it's like
all the different lantern corps are now Avatar
pretty much
people.
They're all represented by the different areas of the Pangea, which
Or the other reason why I can pretty much tell you that it looks like this is all haphazard, because take the Wonder Woman movie that's in development. That was not in development until like Zaslav said that like Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman, and Supergirl are the 4 pillars of DC. Then all of a sudden, look, a Wonder Woman movie's in development.
Well, they started off with it wasn't supposed to be Wonder Woman. It was supposed to be the Themyscirian
They're still doing that, the show, but they're also doing a movie now. So
I
I'm
haven't
like,
heard about that actually.
they just threw it together. It's like all of us, because again, and then Gunn, I think Gunn had said at one point they don't have plans currently for a Wonder Woman movie. Then Zaslav says these four are like the big characters.
Yeah.
Then all of a sudden, out of nowhere, guess what materialized out of thin air?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I mean, so what they have a lot of treatments, right? And they have a lot of, and that's sort of like, if you look at what's his name, Kevin from Jay and Silent Bob,
Smith.
I forget his last name. But he made a treatment for a Superman movie, and so did J.J. Abrams. They had so what they do is they pay these people to do these, to write these either treatments or scripts or screenplays, and then they don't move forward with them, just like Justice League Immortal. They don't move forward with them, and what they do is they still own the IP, they still own the property, they still own the ideas of what was in the stories, and they'll sort of pick and choose the things that they like from those, and that's kind of how they kind of throw things together now. Same thing with the Green Lantern show. The Green Lantern show, that was funny because that was the HBO Max was like, they were really promoting like, yeah, we're going to have a Green Lantern show and all that kind of stuff. And then when that all fell apart, James Gunn was like, oh, okay, well, you still have that and that's in development or whatever. So I'll just take that and I'll plug my stuff into it. And, cause nothing had been shot yet when he took over for the Green Lantern series, even though they kept, promoting that they were going to do it. So, it's just a mess. It's a huge mess. And I don't know that, I think we're just going to have to move forward and they're just going to say, hey, you know what? I don't care that people don't like it. We're just going to keep making it until somebody likes something. Just like Creature Commandos, very forgettable. I couldn't tell you too much about it. I saw it once.
But the thing is that I'm also thinking of is because WB is like up for sale and everything like this, and then it's like whoever the new owner is, whether it be Netflix or Paramount, they see all this chaos. Let's be honest, it is chaos. It's like they got to tell them you gotta firm this, and you can't just throw crap together and hope something sticks. You got to have a plan here.
Yeah. Well, I think what they're going to do, just to keep something, a sense of stability, is that they are going to continue down this path. So whatever, and this is sort of what they did before. I think AT&T bought Warner Brothers. That they, I think before Discovery, they tried to get as many properties. That's what happened to Batgirl. They tried to get so many things out there in development or greenlit or whatnot before the thing got sold, so that they could collect royalties on the properties after they were completed and made, because their names were on it. And that's why there was one thing out there that they removed somebody's name. I think maybe it was Joss Whedon. They removed or Jeff Johns. They removed somebody's name so that they would not be able to collect royalties on said property going forward. But that's sort of that's what they try to do. They try to get in on it because they get to collect, as the it either gets watched or sold to Netflix to, or, Hulu or wherever to, broadcast for a month or two on their platform, and then, come back so they get some sort of residual check, for just at least being in the credits. And I think that was one of the films they removed somebody's credit. It might have been Zack Snyder's Justice League. They may have removed somebody's credit from that, but just it's not so much about the property. It's not so much about giving you a solid product for you to consume as a consumer. It's just get as much out there, and whatever lands, whatever doesn't. It's a lot of people aren't really about, like I said, quality. They just don't care anymore. They see the dollar bills. How can I make this? How can I basically, if you go to, Vegas or Reno or somewhere, it's how can I put my money on here and double it? I don't care the quality. I just care that I see my return.
Yeah. So. It's well, my thing is I'm virtually certain we're not let's say they decide to not follow through with Gunn's plans. They're not going to completely reboot again. I highly doubt they would do that. The
smartest play would be for them to go in hiatus.
Yeah, just take a year or two off. Just
no more than that. You got to clean the palate. Just like a premium cracker. After you've eaten, whatever you want to eat that cracker to clean your palate off before you start up again. Because the thing is that it's going to get to a point where people are just like, they're tired of reboots, and the only good thing that Marvel has going for them is they don't have reboot after reboot after reboot. And and that's I mean, but that's how you get the whole Spider-Man thing, with the No Way Home is you've got 3 Spider-Men in there versus killing off T'Challa in the Marvel universe and saying, okay, no one ever again. It's like, okay, I guess that was it. That's kind of like if we said, you know what, Christopher Reeve was our Superman. No, thank you. We don't need.
Yeah, we're never gonna have any more Superman.
I'm like, what? I get it that he died tragically, but he died doing something that he loved, and you can also give the role to someone else. There are a lot of good, deserving, people out there that can play that role.
In the case of Black Panther, Chadwick's family wanted them to move on and cast someone else.
Yeah. But they put them. It was weird. They put themselves into a corner, and they marketed Chadwick Boseman's death in the film, basically. And it was like, why would you just put his name in the front or the back of the credits, like in memory of or in loving memory of, and give his either his foundation or his his estate, some of the royalties from the film in respect, and move forward. I mean, there's so many Black Panther, ideas and movies and stories that we're never going to see on the big screen because of that move.
Yeah, exactly. But it's like the other thing that I kind of see DC doing particularly. I could also see them taking the route of, let's just do solo standalone movies let's take a break, at least from the shared universe idea, and just go, let's have a Batman movie. Let's have a Superman movie. And then if something pops off, then we can build from there, but just cut like it was before the DCEU, where they were like, okay, Batman Begins, Superman Returns, and all those movies. And then eventually
they have their Batman.
Yeah.
And you can't really stem too much from that. Everyone is like, put Corn Sweat and and the other guy, Pattinson together, and that's but that's only because they have a limited idea of like what to do, because they're not creative or anything like that. They just see there's a Batman, there's a Superman, why not put them together? And it's like, if you don't have a cohesive world that, like, where it works, because you have to also think of, like, the different types of the rules of the world, right? And so you can't have the James Gunn Superman and the Pattinson Batman, Matt Reeves Batman, and have them in the same world as they are. You have to either change who Pattinson's Batman is, as far as like what he can do and how his world works or everything, for that movie, or you have to change Corn Sweat's Superman to fit the Batman universe mold, and sort of change that. You can't have the oversaturated psychedelic Superman in Matt Reeves Batman, and you can't and vice versa. You can't have his super grounded hockey pad wearing Batman in this universe. So it doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. So and it's fine, if he has a story to tell in his Batman universe, let him tell that, and it's all good. So, and
Reeves doesn't want to have to deal with like the shared universe stuff. I believe he signed on because it's like, no, I can keep this separate. I wish people would stop with the calls to try and bring Pattinson into the DCU, because I'm like, can we not have separate universes? This is DC.
It's been ingrained in society ever since Marvel, had the guy, he passed away, but he played the Red Hulk before Harrison. I forget his name, but he was in there. And ever since they started that, that's just kind of it. Everybody's just sort of like, they tried to do the same thing with Russell Crowe and Johnny Depp and some others, and Tom Cruise in the Universal horror universe or whatever.
The monster, the
MonsterVerse, yeah. And because it was, again, they were like, what other universes can we make shared? It's like, okay, come on, guys. It's you don't really have to. You don't have to do that. It's just like if Disney just had a wild hair and said, you know what, we're making Daredevil season 3. Why don't we put the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles in there? So it's like it doesn't quite translate. It doesn't make sense, and it's like, okay, guys, let's pump the brakes a little bit. You got Daredevil in it. And you got the Punisher. And then Spider-Man is kind of carrying over into that or whatever for his latest movie with the Punisher. So it's like, you got your shared universe, but let's kind of pump the brakes a little bit on that. So
ironically, the one shared universe that actually ended up lasting so far is the MonsterVerse with Godzilla and Kong. I will never not think that's funny.
I liked the first Godzilla with the guy that played Quicksilver.
Yeah.
And what's his name? Kick-Ass.
Bryan Cranston.
No, the kid.
Yeah. Aaron Taylor Paul, I think. No, it's another guy.
Jonathan Taylor Thomas. No.
Yeah.
No, I forget the guy's name. But I liked that first Godzilla movie because it felt, and that was directed by Gareth Edwards, who directed Rogue One, and I thought his version.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
Yeah, there you go. He's a good actor. Yeah. He played Kraven.
Yeah,
I couldn't get through the movie. I got like halfway, and then
I liked it. I thought it was, compared to the other movies in that universe, It wasn't that bad.
Morbius wasn't good.
Madam Web was abysmal.
Did not watch Madam Web.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I had heard so much about it. I was like, no, I'm not going to watch that. I'm very selective with what I watch nowadays. Just because there's just so many. I've actually gone back and looked in like the 80s and 90s of movies that I passed on back then. And I was like, you know what, I'll give it a watch. And yeah, some of it's trash, but I mean, some of it's actually pretty good. So, yeah, I mean, I don't know. It's just, like I said, for a lot of the stuff that's coming out these days is just not that good. It's just not. And like I was telling you earlier, it's hard to come every week to a show that we used to be on and talk about, current stuff and watch current movies and have to review them. And they're just not that good. It kind of makes it feel like, okay, what am I going to talk about negatively this week? And how do I try to find silver lining in some of the stuff that doesn't really call for it or need it? So it's just, it gets trying, it gets difficult, and people just start seeing, hey, you're just really negative. I'm like, no, dude, it's not that. I'm trying to give these things a chance. It's just, I see so many of the same, problems or flaws or whatever, that it's just like, why can't a lot of these people that are either writers or even directors, screenplay artists, why can't they get some of this stuff right? Just even the dialogue is just, it's more plot moving than actually thought provoking. Like that was pretty much the only thing that I really enjoyed about Quentin Tarantino movies, is that he had dialogue that was actually interesting to listen to. I mean, he has other things that are in his films, but like the highlight for me for his projects were always the dialogue.
Yeah, and I think going back to what we said earlier, a good portion of that is because there's so much pressure to create content, that if you're creating so much content, you can't really have a high standard of quality because you're still trying to crap out stuff.
Right. Well, the thing is that, what they don't get, I guess, is that, what George Lucas did, and I don't think he knew what he was doing back in the day, but if you make something that is like really good, that stands the test of time, that has legs, you can keep going back to that well and keep, revisiting and putting out merchandise and putting out different things that are associated with that. And that's how you make your money. You don't make your money by just throwing out so much, like, okay, how many Batman animated shows do we need this year? It's like, it's cool to see a lot of Batman, films or movies or whatever, but it's like if you make something that's like really good, that has rewatchability, like that right there, you can like George Lucas, he went back and made special editions. Then he went back and made like he enhanced some of the stuff because it was grainy and all that, and then re-released them and I don't know. And then he tried to do the same thing with episode 1. He tried to go back and make it a 3D movie, a 3D experience, and it failed because they didn't do it for episode 2 and 3. But that was the original plan, was just to go back and keep releasing the same thing, but just add whatever to it, because you had that built-in audience. And then episode 7 came out, and that kind of audience kind of depleted after 8 and 9. But yeah, I mean, it's and the same thing with like I think Disney Plus like really killed themselves.
Yeah.
Especially with the Star Wars stuff, like you were saying, just like turning out so much stuff. You can't take the time to make sure that it's cohesive, it makes sense, it has synergy, and you can you can actually, I mean, I would love to watch the Book of Boba Fett, constantly, but I'll never watch that thing again because it was ridiculous. I mean, riding the Rancor is on the same line or in the same path as the Fawns jumping the shark. It's the same thing. It's just like, what can we do? Because I told Andre at the beginning of the show when they brought the Rancor, I was like, watch, he's going to tame it and ride it. And he did. And I was like, man, I was joking. I think that was going to happen. I was just joking, but it did.
It's a Michael Bay like they what look cool.
Yeah. It was like, oh my God. And when they had even in the same show, when they had those people like pushing the huts over to the palace, and then they turned around and walked back, and I was like, what was the point of that? They have hologram thing, technology, and what's the point of, I don't know, a lot of that stuff didn't make any sense, and I was like, this is ridiculous.
Exactly. Well, and also, and they killed Cad Bane pretty easily. I do agree with you on that one.
I'll tell you, but with that, there's always silver linings here and there, because Cad Bane looked incredible.
He sounded exactly like the cartoon. I was like, oh my God.
Yeah. So I mean, they did a great job with that character as far as like bringing him to life and making him look cool. But then that was kind of it, and they turned Boba Fett, who used to be like this badass bounty hunter, into some like, he had some lady with him that like something happened with her stomach or whatever, but like he was almost taking orders from her, and I was like, he was like, oh, rule with respect, and I'm gonna be a boss, and I was like, okay, that's cool, be a boss, but like have a crew, and don't befriend teenagers.
Dengar and all the other bounty hunters that were with you in episode 5. Just imagine he rolls in there with like all the guys.
Yeah. Just like, like show us something like that. Show us something that's, like dirty, grungy. But like I said, he befriended the kids that were on the crazy looking motorcycles that
look like Power Rangers pretty much.
Yeah, they're all different colors. I was like, why are they different colored bikes? They should all be gray and brown, and that's it.
He needs teenagers with attitude. That's why.
Yeah. That's who I want on my crew.
They're gonna show up and go, it's morphin' time.
Like, oh, where's my crew? They're playing video games, sir. Well, they're playing Sabak.
Or it's like the other thing with like even Mando season 2. I like Mandalorian in season 2, but the problem is season 2 is basically just cameo fest, where it's like, who can we crap in there to get the nostalgic fans to show up?
Well, what they did, they had a Boba Fett movie, and that was a treatment. And when George sold it, he had that treatment. They also have a Yoda movie. So, but what they did was they said, okay, we don't want to capitalize on George's characters. We want to make our own characters. So they made their own characters. They called him, I don't even remember his name.
Din Djarin.
But everyone calls him Mando, and the show was called Mandalorian. So what are you going to remember? Mandalorian. Din Djarin is not the name of a character. That's the planet he came from. So, you have that, and then it's like, they took everything that was cool that was from the treatment or the script from the Boba Fett show, and they put it into the Mandalorian seasons, and then that's when they got to the Book of Boba Fett, and they were like, well, we've already used a lot of the cool stuff. What do we do now? So they had to come up with something new. But coming up with something new, you could tell by the writing team that it was just one-offs, ideas that just sort of like they threw things at the wall, and whatever stuck. Because it just wasn't a good show. And then bringing Grogu back, I was like, yeah. Bro, number one, you're going to put him in an IG-11 stomach like Krang from Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then, you're going to sit there and bring him back after he was off with Luke. I was like, bro, he could learn from Luke for a couple years, Well,
but the other thing is like there were a lot of people that went to Mando season 3 without watching Boba, and they were like, wait, how is he back?
Exactly. Well, I mean, yeah, they tried to do the Marvel thing where you have to watch from one to, you have to watch them in sequential order, but it didn't resonate, and it was just like, okay, we want to sell toys, we want to keep the cute stuff for the the kids or the ladies, and then they put him in like a little Yoda or what child, forget his name. What is his name? Grogu. Yeah. They put him in a little, Boba Fett or Mandalorian outfit. And I was like, that's ridiculous. I was like, you've lost me. And there was so many problems. And then, and we laughed at this back when it came out, but like, they had flying troopers in there, but I was like, wait a minute. Didn't they say something about, they fly now in Rise of Skywalker? I was like, they've always had jetpack troopers. Like, why is this an epiphany that, what was the guy that played Moon Knight?
Poe Dameron, I guess.
Poe Dameron. He had this epiphany. He was like, they fly now? Like, they fly now. And I was like, they've always flown. And that they flew before you were even born, according to, the Mandalorian show. And I'm sure they even had clone troopers that had jetpacks.
Oh, they did.
Yeah. And that was even before Luke was born. So it's like, they've always been, that's a constant thing. That's like saying we have motorcycles, like, yeah, you do, they've been around since before I was born, or, before my parents.
It could be that they were saying the First Order troops hadn't flown before, but I'm still like, they're you call them stormtroopers. What are you doing here?
Exactly. The First Order, it wasn't the rebels, it was the resistance. I'm like, okay, so they start with R, cool. And they look the same. The biggest problem that I had is that they had TIE fighters, and I was like, what? They still have TIE fighters? The X-Wings were the X-Wings, but they were a little bit modified, but that was it. I was like, so you're just basically taking everything from what we had in the 80s and rebranding it, and that's it. And I was like, that's ridiculous.
Well, the other thing, you know how they explain why the resistance is like on their heels, even though they were like the military? Well, because what happened is that after the Battle of Endor, check this out, they literally decommissioned their entire military. Like, what?
Why would you do that? It's just sad. And then what they're doing with Ahsoka can't die. Apparently she's the only one that can survive. She's survived everyone else. She survived Hayden, she survived Mark, she survived everyone, but except for Rise of Skywalker. I guess she spoke to Rey then.
She's probably dead by that point.
Maybe.
That's weird. That's the problem with nostalgia baiting people.
Pretty much. And what was funny is that they actually had Hayden come out and shoot some stuff for Rise of Skywalker and then didn't use the footage. I was like, that is the biggest mistake.
Oh my God.
That's the biggest mistake. They just had his voice. I was like, that's ridiculous. He looked cool in the Obi-Wan show, but the Obi-Wan show was ridiculous too. When they put Leia inside the trench coat of Obi-Wan,
I was like, there's no way that's gonna work.
I was like, bro, that's Austin Powers standing on top of Mini-Me. I was like, what are you doing? That's the silliest thing I've ever seen in a Star Wars show. Don't give me that crap. And they did the whole thing from like Robin Hood, Prince and Men in Tights, where they go up to this the transport goes up to this gate, and you can easily walk around.
Yeah, gate. I know.
I was like, what in the world are we doing?
It's even worse. Obi-Wan goes to turn off the gate. I'm like, hey, bro, just walk around.
I'm on the east side. I'm on the west side. It's principle. So, like, yeah, no, and you're absolutely correct here in the chat. They called him Baby Yoda. So everyone called him Baby Yoda for the longest time because I'm assuming they just didn't have the name yet. I'm assuming that was not something that they had fully developed until they got to whatever episode that was when they revealed his name, because the name wasn't even that big. It was like, oh, Grogu, okay, whatever.
People still call him Baby Yoda. So
yeah,
it's like, what? That's his name.
It's just silly, and he's supposed to be like 50 years old. Yes. Well, that's Dave Filoni. That's his character that he got to create with George. And so he, there's a soft place in his heart, right there. But I think he tried to kill her once, or maybe George tried to kill her, and somebody was like, no.
In
I think it might.
Rebels, she kind of died, but then she was
Yeah.
like brought back in time or something like that, or like something happened with it's time travel.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, no, the world between worlds, or what is it? That's an interesting concept, an interesting idea. I just wish that they would have explored that a little bit more. I think I thought that what is it? Exegol was ridiculous. I love Ian McDiarmid, but bringing him back as the Emperor
somehow Palpatine returned.
Bro, he was never part of the original plan. And it was like, what are you doing? You just turned Snoke into nothing because you wanted to usurp everyone's expectations. And so he was Andy Serkis, and they just totally didn't do anything with the character. I was hoping that he was going to be the son of the the Force Trinity, the Father, the Daughter, and the Son. I was hoping he was going to be like
a cool idea, honestly.
It would have been really cool, but and it would have given some gravity. Like, okay, he's more important than Palpatine. He's actually more important than Vader, and that would have been something that I thought was like really cool, but it of course didn't happen because they just really did. And even right. So what's funny, and it's very sad for the sequel trilogy, is you had both J.J. Abrams and Rian Johnson that did not want to direct the movies they directed. They went back to JJ a couple times and they offered him more money because he did Star Trek. And, he did a good job as far as like, he's a good mimic of like Spielberg. But he's, his stuff doesn't have like, he does those mystery boxes, right? Where like, I think he did that with Lost, where you don't know, there's some MacGuffin and they have to chase it, but it's like, you don't know why. Cool. And then you had Rian Johnson that just was off the heels of like that Gordon Levitt movie Looper. And they were like, yeah, you can do that. And he pitched his own Star Wars trilogy, and she was like, yeah, we'll greenlight that. Do you want to do episode 8? And he was like, yeah, I guess. It just wasn't going out for that. I was like, y'all didn't really vet anybody. And you need to have some cohesion. You need to have an actual firm story.
A trilogy has to be from one creative like mind. I mean, with the other two, you could tell it was George's through line. Granted, there may have been more people creatively like make sure like some of his ideas were like filtered, but it's like you could still tell it's like one creative through line.
Yeah. No, and that's exactly what Richard Marquand. No, was that him? I think so. He helped George with the prequels, and then you had Gary something or other help him with the originals, and Gary Kurtz, I think, and he really told George no. Like and the problem with a lot of the prequels is that George really didn't have anybody. Even the Marquand guy didn't really tell George no. Everyone is like a bootlicker when it comes to George Lucas, and I wish he would have had me there because I would have told him no on some things. Because back in the day, I was making like Star Wars fan films and stuff like that, and that was fun. But I think that there's just so much that there's potential in a lot of the things that people make. It's just they're not well honed in, not well crafted before day one to shoot. So. Yeah, I just wish that they would take their time and really give you something good.
Yeah, exactly. Me too. So tell me about the Nephilim.
It's actually the Nephilim, but in I guess over here people just say Nephilim. But it is a young man that is endowed with supernatural ancient powers. Within his very cells. He got them from his father, and his father was taken away from him, so he's sort of like learning how to use his power as he goes forward. And kind of in this comic here, this is where you sort of meet him going out and just just a night with the Nephilim, just kind of see how he how he patrols his neighborhood, and he's there. He's protecting his mother because it's not the greatest part of town, and he lives in a city called Port City. His brother is off in the military. His father was taken away by men in suits, and so it's just him with his mother, and he's just trying to do right by her, and protect everyone that he can, given the powers that he's endowed with. And if you can see right here on your screen, the black lightning is what we call dark light energy. And I wanted to come up with a unique power set that is something that can rival, a Spider-Man or a Green Lantern, or, somebody else with some sort of, powers and abilities. So with this, like you can see inside the van underneath the windshield, you can see that he has a grapple that he's able to sort of, loosely create so that it can hold him onto the top of the van as the assailant is driving away. So, but with this character here, this is something that I developed back in 2010, and just kind of shelved it for a little bit and got distracted by other things. And it was just something that I decided I wanted to come back and really, kind of hone in, develop, world build, and just kind of, make a character that is unique and interesting to me. Because if you're looking at, Batman and Superman, prime examples, is how many times can we retell their story? And it still be something unique and interesting, with what they're doing with the absolute Batmans and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, that's cool. But visually it's just, there's some story epic or storylines that I'm like, oh, that's pretty neat. That's an interesting concept. But visually it just looks like the Spawn version or the Venom version of Batman and his rogue gallery. And so I'm like, okay, well, how cool is that? So, they're only doing that because they're about to lose their IP, because after 100 years of having the copyright, it is about to become public domain. So they're trying to come up with something that's unique and different and all that, so they can still hold the rights to certain aspects of those characters. But with this character here, I was like, you know what? Let me come up with a different story, something new, something unique. He's young 20s. So there's so much room for him to fail and mess up, and that's kind of like what you don't see in The Rise of Skywalker is with Rey, is she never fails. She always fails upward. If she makes a mistake, there's no learning. So with this character here, I really wanted to say, hey, you know what? He can be impulsive. He's very jokey. He's just kind of like, cavalier, sort of like a young Spider-Man or, Nightwing. Just sort of like, quick sharp with the tongue, and his powers are not infinite. So I wanted to have, some sort of not weakness, but I wanted to give him sort of a threshold to where he can exert himself by overusing his powers. He can just, weaken himself, kind of like the Flash. So when the Flash runs too much, he has to eat, he has to, kind of rest, regenerate. Well, it's the same with this character here, the Nephilim. I wanted him to have to, kind of not only use his powers sparingly, because he's also super strong. He's got super speed. He's very dense. He's not like a Superman or anything like that, where he's, you can't cut his skin or anything like that. He's still human. But his molecular is just a little bit more dense, so that, a straight shot won't kill him, but, you can definitely shoot at him and the bullets should bounce off. But, I wanted to create something new and interesting and fun, and I wanted to give him sort of a classic but also iconic look, as far as his suit and also the power. So but yeah, no, so we've had this campaign open since November, and it's going to be closing shortly, but and we've already gone past our goal, so that we're going to be able to go into production. The book is complete. I've already colored and drawn everything. I did get a couple of artists to help me out with covers. So one of the covers is created by a man by the name of, if you go down a little bit more to cover D, right here, that is by Jimmy Reyes, and he is an inker that has inked a lot of David Finch.
Mm-hmm.
And David Finch is one of the artists that
Mm-hmm.
I really admire and like, and sort of, try to emulate. And then right underneath that is Robert Marzullo, and he drew this cover for cover E. And he is over at Ram Studio Comics. And if you have ever looked at a tutorial on how to draw comics, you've probably come across a couple of his tutorials, because he's very popular in that sphere. And both of them, same thing with Jimmy, is that I was looking into learning how to ink, and I came across his channel and was watching him do it live, and had some questions for him, and he certainly very helpful and all that. So I said, hey, you know what? I have this idea here. If you'd like to draw a cover for me, I'd appreciate it. They both did a banger job, and very, very grateful to them. I colored all of the covers myself, and it's all digitally colored. And this is the whole comic was created digitally, so none of it was hand drawn. Oh, no, I can't say none of it. When I first started drawing some of the fight sequences back in 2010, those were of course on paper, and then I scanned them and then drew over them. But for the most part, I kind of, it was a little bit of a learning curve, but I got myself a drawing pad and I started drawing digitally, and that's pretty much how I got the whole comic completed. So very excited, very happy with the results. I've made some things. I had a 3D mold of the character. So that's his this little bust.
Oh, sweet.
So yeah, it's he's a little bit different. It actually stands up pretty well. Let me see. Boom. There you go.
Yeah.
Hands free. So yeah, I had that made, and then we had some rings. Oh, I got it right here. Little power ring made. Even though he doesn't have a ring, other characters have rings too, so it's not just like Flash or Green Lantern, but like I'll just grab another one. Anyway, so I have like a little ring with his little logo on it. There it is.
Sweet.
And made that, and then lanyards, and I screen printed my own shirts. So I have those made because I used to work at a screen printing company, and while I was there, I went ahead and did that. So that was pretty fun. But yeah, I've poured a lot of time and energy into this thing, and really, wanted to come up with something. I figured, hey, all those years that I was streaming with the guys over at the other YouTube channel, I was always like, yeah, that's not good. That's not good. I figured, hey, I might as well put my money where my mouth is and say, hey, you know what? Here's a story. Let me try to entertain somebody for however many pages I come up with. So
that's a lot of why I did mine, because it was mostly like, I don't like how DC has treated Wonder Woman, and she's my favorite superhero that DC puts out there. So I figured, again, I could complain about it on YouTube. Don't get me wrong, I'm still going to complain about it because that's fun. But yeah, to your point, I might as well, I'll give it a shot.
Yeah. See, hey, you know what? Give me an opportunity to entertain you. This right here is a floppy, so it's 20 pages that I colored myself, and I drew myself as well from start to finish. And yeah, I mean, I'm just really overjoyed with how this thing has come out. Yeah, I just, it's something, it's, to have something completed, in your hands, and just, ready to give to somebody else and share. And the most important thing that I've gotten from people a lot is the feedback. And that's what I really appreciate, is like, it's one thing to create something, but it's another to say, hey, you know what, how well or poorly was it received by someone else that said, hey, I'm looking at your thing and this, so I really do encourage anybody to check out, everything that we've done. I created a website with the help of AI, as far as like creating CSS and HTML and all that stuff. But yeah, it showcases the characters that we've developed. One thing about this guy here is that I have really, sort of gone in and created like a pretty good rogue gallery, because I know that like Batman and Flash and Spider-Man and some of the other, even Superman, they have, what sets them apart, what makes them very interesting, especially Batman, is their rogue gallery.
Mhm.
So if you have a really strong rogue gallery that your hero has to come up and sort of like, you know, different challenges for
Yeah.
them to overcome, that's what's really intriguing to me, and that's what, you know, that's what I really focus on. So we have some really cool villains, and I actually have a trailer on the site. If you look up right above, let me see. No, oh, where was it? I saw it earlier. Yeah, there it is.
All right. Yeah.
You've spent a lifetime running from who you are. I tried to shield you from it, and I was wrong. But the time has come to show the world what you can do. Son, embrace your destiny.
Looks good.
Thank you.
That was cool. I like that one.
Yeah, so I spent like a whole 24 hours working. So I was working with a lot of AI to help me with some of the visuals. Because as I was I learned that as I was talking to people about the character, you know, I was showing them, you know, I was trying to describe, you know, the character himself, the Nephilim, and they just couldn't understand what the dark light energy was, and I was like, man, I really need to animate this. So I spent a lot of time trying to get the prompts right to make sure that it made sense, and then, you know, just wanted to show that a lot of the artwork, you'll see it on there, but it's on the trailer, it was, you know, a lot of the stuff wasn't complete, but a lot of this, like, you know, a lot of these images are going to be in the comic, but just in different ways. It's just it's all about how you know, just take what you've done and try to use it in a marketing sense, because I feel like that's the hardest part of this whole thing is trying to market what you've done.
Yeah.
And for an artist who doesn't have a background, I have a background in design, because I create the things that they use for marketing, but I'm not a marketer, so I don't know how to do that. So, and you know, I'm completely cool with, you know, everybody knows, hey, you know what? I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to marketing.
That's why I always tell people, if you have an inclination to create something particular like this, start a YouTube channel and get your name out there first. At the very least, if someone says, hey, I know Ryan, I know he's a cool dude, I like his content, I'll support his book.
Yeah. Well, that was one of the things, and that's what I encourage for a lot of people, is that, you know, you don't want to go and make the content and then try to go out and broadcast it. What you want to do is you want to start from day one, and you want to, you know, start showing sketches, start showing, you know, sort of, you know, have them go on the journey with you. Because that's what I did after I was on our YouTube show. I kind of like I was saying earlier, I took a hiatus from the internet. I was like, you know, I'm just going to focus on this. And I'm just going to, you know, kind of forego any sort of streaming, because I used to do drawing streams a little bit on my channel back in the day, and I got to the point where I was, you know, talking to the audience more than I was drawing. So I was like, I don't want to get that, because then I'll never get on with the comic. And so I took off, you know, just from the internet. And yeah, that did kind of hurt me a little bit, because a lot of people just kind of felt like, I guess I just disappeared. So I didn't really know what to expect when I came back. So, but I've been slowly trying to build that back up, and it's been, you know, it's been a journey. It's been challenging, but I feel like I've created something that's going to have legs of its own. So eventually, everything that I've been planting will, you know, it'll blossom in a bit.
Yeah, exactly. It's just keep at it, and then it'll snowball. But it looks great. It sounds cool. I like everything I see, and yeah, the link to back it is in the campaign. Is in the description. Now, my final question is: so, what were some of the challenges that, like, you encountered, like, working on this? It could be anything from, like, writing it, from designing it, any like any things that, like, stumped you at first.
So, as I stated a while ago, as I created this character back in 2010, so I
Mm-hmm.
had so many years to mull it over.
Mm-hmm.
So I had the world building as I was going, because I was developing this with my kids, and
Mm-hmm.
so doing that, we could bat around back and forth, things that we thought were cool and everything like that, and they're in their young 20s and all that, so they're really into superheroes as well,
Mm-hmm.
and so it just made it kind of really easy to have that little
Mm-hmm.
ecosystem.
Yeah.
And so when the first thing that you want, or the challenge that I faced, the biggest challenge that I faced, was that I did this prior. I found out this when I was in my young 20s. Was that when I started working on my Star Wars film, I had a huge crew all around the world of people that were making models for me from like 3D Max, Lightwave, Maya, just other softwares, and it got to a point where something happened and I couldn't replicate it because I didn't have the skills to do it, so I had to close production on that. So when I got into this and I did this here, I was like, you know what, I'm going to start this, but I need to know that I can do this from start to finish, just in case which did happen, I'll get to in a minute, but just in case something happens and I'm relying on someone else, I need to be able to rely on myself only,
Mm-hmm.
just in case to get it finished. Because if I don't learn how to do some aspect of it, I'm reliant on someone else to complete it.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
maybe that person doesn't have a good timeline, or maybe something happens in their lives where they're gone, and I don't know why, and I can't tell. Well, which is what happened with one of my artists. I had when I first started out, I had a couple pages drawn, and the guy that worked with me on Project Justice League, he was the colorist.
Which was awesome, by the way.
Thank you. So but so I would draw it and we would send it to him and he would color it and it would come back and it looked pretty good. And I was like,
Mhm.
okay, sweet. So I asked him, I said, hey, can you help me out? He's like, yeah, certainly I can. And so he wanted me to pay him in advance because he's in Argentina. And I was like, okay, cool, And so I was paying him and he was like, yeah, can you increase that? Because I'm accepting payments through PayPal and there's all these fees and everything, so it doesn't really work out to that much. I was like, okay, yeah, sure, I could do that. And then he just went kind of silent on me. He's still out there and he's still, posting his own stuff, but he had things happen in his life and then he just completely ghosted me after that. And I was like, okay. So I had a couple pages done by him. And so what I had to do is Marty, I'm already an artist. That's my background. That's what I do, but I'm not a comic book, colorist. So I had to kind of, take what he had done and dissect it and then try to replicate it, because I was like, I am not doing he had done like 5 pages of mine. And I was like, I'm not doing the whole comic book, nor am I going to redo his 5 pages. Let me learn what he did and replicate that so that I can at least have a couple of pages finished. Problem with that also is that when he colored them great, but he didn't, there was a lot of things that I wanted to add or change. So I ended up pretty much almost coloring the whole thing again. On top of that, like he still has some stuff in there that he did that I like that remains, and I think is still cool and everything. But I've learned how to replicate that. And while doing that, I was like, oh, well, this is a better way of doing this or whatever. And so I ended up coloring the whole thing. All of the covers are colored by. Oh no, I'm sorry. There's one color that's not cover that's not colored by me. That was colored by Simon Calderon of Blaze Manga's production. That's cover B. So he colored that one for me. And but all the other ones I colored, and I colored all the pages in the book. And so that was a huge challenge for me, in that I couldn't rely on somebody else to I couldn't give him the pages, wait a little bit, and then have him return them back to me colored, and I could just put them in and continue on. I had to spend more time than I had originally planned. But again, same thing is that when you're doing these types of projects, you got to make sure that if somebody falls off the radar, or you can still do it on your own. Yeah, you can still try to, if you just don't have any, artistic talent or whatnot, you can scour the internet and find people, and maybe even go to Fiverr and find somebody there or whatever. But it's like, but you'll still have to find someone else. You'll still have to see if they can replicate what the other person did. if they don't, then people can see that there's not a consistency in the color or the art or anything like that. So, it's again, if you want to do a project, either have people in your corner that won't go away, but I mean, there's still could be issues in their lives as far as problems that they could have. Something could come up with, like a family member, and they can't or financially something could happen in their lives. So either you shelve your project and it's on hiatus forever, or you do it yourself, and I had to do it myself. So
well, yeah, exactly. It's like, because again, and that's like the double-edged sword of working in a collaborative environment, because inevitably, hey, particularly with like comics, where like where like there's a lot of interconnecting parts. If one of those things falls apart, or like you said, that something happens, it's like you need to be able to like continue on.
Yeah. So and it's it was the same way with another project that I did. It's just like, you've got to be able to say, hey, you know what, I'm investing this time, and it's not going to be for nothing. It's going to be, hey, I'm going to get this done, and people are going to see the result. I didn't sacrifice these months, years of working on this thing for it to just be shelved. So and that's happened before, and that is a horrible, like that. I've had business ventures that have collapsed because of that. It's a great idea, but it was shelved because somebody else had an offshore opportunity, and they couldn't pass that up. So it's like, okay, cool. I mean, good for you and good for your family, but that idea just went on the shelf for possibly forever. So.
I hear you. But yeah, Ryan, it was a pleasure having you on. You're always welcome. All of the links to Ryan and the comic will be in the description below. So, and once again, I'd love to have you on again as this series goes on and help you promo.
Anytime. No, I appreciate it, man. I have about 10 stories that tell, or five books that'll tell the first arc, and then the other 5. But then there'll be an overarching arc that tells a complete story for me. So we're pressing forward, and we're gonna continue on. But I really would love for people to jump on. Just like I say, just give me a chance to entertain you for a bit. And even if you get the comic digitally, it's $5 digital. So
not bad. But yeah, so stay heroic, everyone, and we will see you guys in the next one. Thanks, but bye.